So now we're noticing that we have extreme physical distancing in keeping with the times that we are living in during the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the things that some people have asked about is whether or not we would still have a prime minister, people were able to function in their positions. Interestingly enough, Section 77 of our Constitution is a bit different from that of similar territories, where it says that the dissolution of Parliament, or with the dissolution of Parliament, we would still have the ministers remain as they are for, if it is for the purpose of election, that dissolution took place. So we are now seeing Clarence Rambarat and Dr. Nian Gadsby-Dolly, and along with the rest of the nation, we're wondering what positions these individuals will hold, whether or not they'll be reinstated on their previous portfolios. But time will tell, as we are here for the swearing in of the cabinet this afternoon. And we're happy to be bringing it to you on TTT, Talk City 91.1 FM, and on Facebook at TTT Live Online. So we're now seeing Ms. Morris Julian, former mayor of Arima and a successful candidate for Dabadi Omera, as well as Calm Imbert, no doubt texting something very important on his phone. We'll also see what position he goes into. And in the foreground of this shot, we're seeing the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister-elect, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. And next to him is his wife, Sharon Rowley. We're also looking to see who will be put in some key positions, because we have had some members of parliament, some government ministers who have not gone up for re-election, and we will see whether or not those posts are filled by new or fresh faces this year, or this term rather, being one of transition as described by the Prime Minister, who said he will not be there forever. And it stands to reason that you would have some of those fresh faces or newcomers on the scene being in positions where they can be groomed, where they can learn from people who have a little more knowledge of the specifics of what they're about. So we look forward to seeing who will get tipped for what. There are some names that have been bandied about in different areas, different ministries, different portfolios. Specifically, the Ministry of Education is one that people have been asking about. Even as we are on the eve of the SEA examination, we're also seeing that there will be a new ministry, that's the Ministry of Technology, as promised by Dr. Rowley, and we will see who leads from the helm at the position in the ministry. So we are looking forward to seeing the ministers get sworn in, the cabinet get sworn in, and we are bringing this to you live. So we are actually seeing the President, Her Excellency Paula May Weeks, making her way in. People are being
standing for the prayer done by Reverend Dr. Nolly Clark, President of the Interreligious Organization. My apologies, Dr. Nolly Clark is not here, so I'll fill in. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity that we can come together to swear in this new government. Father, we pray, O God, your protection and your guidance upon our Prime Minister to be sworn in. We pray, O God, that you continue to direct his path, that you will be a good leader and you will give him your wisdom. We pray that you will take us through this evening's proceedings and let your guidance be with us. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated. Your Excellency, by your leave, please. Your Excellency, Paula May Weeks, ORTT, President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. The Honorable Chief Justice, Mr. Ivor Archie, ORTT, Chief Justice of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and Mrs. Archie. The Honorable Christine Kangaloo, President of the Senate. The Honorable Bridget Anisette George, Speaker of the House. The Honorable Ansel Dennis, Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly. His Excellency Jose Cerulli Ramia, Dean of the Diplomatic Corps. Members of Parliament, specially invited guests, members of the media, good afternoon. Subsequent to the general elections of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, held on Monday, the 10th of August 2020, in accordance with Section 75 of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, there shall be a cabinet for Trinidad and Tobago, which shall have the general direction and control of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and shall be collectively responsible, therefore, to Parliament. The cabinet shall consist of the Prime Minister and such number of other ministers, of whom one shall be the Attorney General, appointed in accordance with the provisions of Section 76, as the Prime Minister may consider appropriate. I now invite Her Excellency to administer the oaths of office to the Prime Minister and members of the Cabinet. Your Excellency. In accordance with Section 76, Part 1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, where there is occasion for the appointment of a Prime Minister, the President shall appoint as Prime Minister a member of the House of Representatives who is the leader of that House of the party which commands the support of the majority of members of that House, or where it appears to him that the party does not have an undisputed leader in that House, or that no party commands the support of such majority, the member of the House of Representatives who, in her judgment, is most likely to command the support of the majority of members of that House, and who is willing to accept the office of Prime Minister. I now invite Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, Member of Parliament for Diego Martin West, to take his oath of office as Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Dr. Rowley.
I, Keith Christopher Rowley, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as Prime Minister and to do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will.
In accordance with Section 41 and 2A of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Senate shall consist of 31 members, in this Constitution referred to as senators, who shall be appointed by the President in accordance with this section. Of the 31 senators, 16 shall be appointed by the President, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister. The following persons are appointed as senators in the Senate of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago: Mr. Hassel Bacchus, Dr. Amory Brown, Ms. Donna Cox, Mr. Kazim Hossain, Mr. Franklin Khan, Mr. Randall Mitchell, Mr. Clarence Rambarat, Mrs. Paula Gopi-Skoon, Mr. Rohan Sinanan, Mr. Avinash Singh, and Ms. Renuka Sagram Singh Suklal. In accordance with Section 76(3) of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the ministers other than the Prime Minister shall be such persons as the President, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister, shall appoint from among the members of the House of Representatives and the Senators. I now invite the following persons to take their oaths of office as ministers: Mr. Faris Alwari as the Attorney General in the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Legal Affairs.
I, Faris Alrawi, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago, and will uphold the Constitution and the law, and I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as Attorney General and do all right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will.
Senator, the Honorable Mr. Clarence Rambarat as Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries.
I, Clarence Rambarat, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago, and I would uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister, and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will. Thank you.
Senator, the Honorable Mr. Avinash Singh, as Minister in this ministry.
I, Avinash Singh, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will. Sworn before me.
Dr. Nayan Gaspi Dolly, as Minister of Education.
I, Nayan Gadsby Dolly, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as the minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Mrs. Lisa Morris Julian, as Minister in the Ministry of Education.
Thank you. I, Lisa Morris Julian, do solemnly swear that I will bear the true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, and that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will. Thank you. Thank you.
Senator, the Honorable Mr. Franklin Khan, as Minister of Energy and Energy Industries.
I, Franklin Khan, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago, and will uphold the Constitution and the law, and will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister, and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Mr. Colum Imbut as Minister of Finance.
I, Colum Imbut, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago, and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister, and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Mr. Brian Manning as Minister in the Ministry of Finance.
I, Brian Manning, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago, and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister, and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Mr. Terence Dial Singh as Minister of Health.
I, Terence Dial Singh, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago, and will uphold the Constitution and the law, and that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister, and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Ms. Penelope Beckles as Minister of Housing and Urban Development.
I, Penelope Beckles, solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago. I will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Mr. Adrian Leons as Minister in the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development.
I, Adrian Leons, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago, and I will uphold the Constitution and the law, and I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Mr. Stephen McClatchy as Minister of Labour.
I, Stephen McClatchy, do solemnly swear that I will bear faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Senator, the Honorable Mr. Kazim Hussain as Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
I, Kazim Hussain, solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, and that I will conscientiously and impartially and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do all right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Mr. Stuart Richard Young as Minister of National Security and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister.
Thank you. I, Stuart Richard Young, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, and I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will.
Senator, the Honorable Mrs. Renuka Sagram Singh Suklal as Minister in the Attorney General and Ministry of Legal Affairs.
I, Renuka Sagram Singh Suklal, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will.
Mrs. Ayana Wester Roy as Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister.
I, Ayana Webster Roy, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Mr. Simon De Nobrega as Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister.
I, Simon De Nobrega, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Mrs. Camille Robinson Regis as Minister of Planning and Development.
I, Camille Robinson Regis, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Senator the Honorable Ms. Alison West as Minister of Public Administration and Digital Transformation.
I, Alison West, solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Senator the Honorable Mr. Hassel Bacchus as Minister in the Ministry of Public Administration and Digital Transformation.
I, Hassel Bacchus, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Mr. Garvin Gonzalez as Minister of Public Utilities.
I, Marvin Gonzalez, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago, and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my abilities discharge my duties as minister, and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will.
Senator, the Honorable Ms. Donna Cox, as Minister of Social Development and Family Services.
I, Donna Cox, do solemnly affirm that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago, and will uphold the Constitution and the law, and I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister.
Ms. Shamfa Kojo, as Minister of Sport and Community Development.
I, Shamfa Kojo, solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago, and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister, and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will.
Senator, the Honorable Mr. Randall Mitchell, as Minister of Tourism, Culture, and the Arts.
I, Randall Mitchell, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago, and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister, and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will.
Senator the Honorable Mrs. Paula Gopi-Skoon as Minister of Trade and Industry.
I, Paula Gopi-Skoon, solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do right to all manner of men without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Senator the Honorable Mr. Rohan Sinanan as Minister of Works and Transport.
Sure. Thank you. I, Rohan Sinanan, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago, will uphold the Constitution and the law, and will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duty as minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Mr. Foster Cummings as a minister in the Ministry of Works and Transport.
I, Foster Cummings, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will.
Mr. Fitzgerald Hines as Minister of Youth Development and National Services.
I, Fitzgerald Hines, do solemnly swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously and impartially and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as minister and do right unto all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will.
Thank you, Excellency. I now invite Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, to address this esteemed gathering.
Your Excellency, Speaker of the House, President of the Senate, Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Chief Secretary, and Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, Chief Justice, my wife Sharon, colleagues, members of the national community. Throughout this function, I must admit that I frequently drifted away into noticing the return to this grand President's House, which we have not had the opportunity to use for this purpose for a number of years. I trust that the national community feels as welcome as I am, Your Excellency, to this location. Thank you for having us here today. As head of the government, recently sworn in, I trust that you would have noticed that there would have been some changes, not altogether earth-shattering, but significant. And permit me to mention the absence of one of our colleagues, and that is the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Amory Brown, who is currently in quarantine and should be out by the end of the weekend. So, Excellency, with your permission, he should be sworn in sometime by Monday or thereafter. So Dr. Brown will join those of us who have already been sworn in. I ask the national community to take note of the fact that I have put the nation's children in the hands of two mothers, and I trust that they could not be better placed. The two ministers in the Ministry of Education are responsible now not just only for their own family, but for the family of children of Trinidad and Tobago. As Prime Minister, the most significant assignment that I would expect to be carried out during this period of service of these two ministers is a radical reform of the country's curriculum from primary school and into secondary school. And without waiting for the outcome of such reform, I would publicly ask that these ministers ensure that whatever revision is done, whatever reform comes about, that the whole question of citizenship, which used to be called civics, be added to the curriculum of Trinidad and Tobago, so that our education system, whatever else it does, it prepares our people for citizenship. You would also observe that we have two ministers in the Ministry of Agriculture, which is an area which this government intends to focus on, not simply satisfying the cliches of agriculture for diversification, but for searching for the next generation of farmers, because it is my view that without farmers, there will be no farming, and without farming, there'll be little agriculture. The ministers during this term would be involved in doing everything that is reasonable to ensure that our agricultural lands, where they are, as they are, would be brought into production in one kind or another, and encourage a number of young people from across the country to be supported in establishing additional farms in this country and supporting farms that already exist. With respect to the portfolio carried by Mr. Hines there of youth development and national service, this is a conversation that has to take place as to what national service means. And of course, it is voluntary, but it will be a pathway for young people to get involved, to be trained, and to come out of the training and pick up responsibility in a number of areas. It is tied to the return of the youth camp that we've promised in our campaigns. There would be 3 youth camps to be built, and that would be part of our development program. And the location of young people from unproductive activity in urban areas to the land in Trinidad and Tobago will be an assignment that should be carried out during this term. You will observe that our very experienced Minister of Energy is still with us at this time, and I welcome Minister Khan back to the portfolio, because at this time, in treating with our energy business, experience is valuable, and Minister Khan brings that experience and continuity for the near future. With respect to tourism, culture, and the arts, I anticipate that what we do as our culture, what we prepare and present as our arts, are integral parts of whatever tourism becomes whenever it comes back to life. And I trust that during this period, you will see that combination of tourism, culture, and the arts. We also have sport and community development. We believe that sporting activities and all other activities of community development, there's a synergy there. And our young people in particular, we expect to see them developing communities, getting involved in community activities, of which sport is a major one. And I got a lot of public advice as to who the Minister of Finance should be. Thank you very much for the advice that you've given me. I've considered every one of it. And I came to the conclusion that at this point in time, we could hardly do better than to have a Minister of Finance who knows what is going on in the Ministry of Finance. And this is not the time for experimentation and training. So experience has taken over and continue to be useful to us, because this is a period where the challenges of financing, of budgeting, and of servicing the country is not one for the faint-hearted. And I can give the country the assurance that the current Minister of Finance is not a faint-hearted person. Your Excellency, we're starting out on a long journey. 50 months of it, or is it 60 months? 60 months of it. It's counted in months, because sometimes when you count this period in years, some people fall asleep. Rest assured that nobody in this government would be allowed to fall asleep, because conduct, performance will be reviewed on an ongoing basis. As Prime Minister, I assume full responsibility, and I want to thank the national community for giving me another opportunity to continue in public service. I want to give you the assurance, Your Excellency, that all my colleagues will observe the oath of office taken here today and to conduct the business of the people of Trinidad and Tobago in keeping with that oath. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. This one, Honorable. We will now have a short musical interlude by a trio of the Exodus Steel Orchestra. Her Excellency Paula May Weeks, ORTT, President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, has consented to address this esteemed gathering.
Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and Mrs. Rowley, the Honorable Chief Justice, Mr. Ivor Archie, ORTT, and Mrs. Archie, Senator the Honorable Christine Kangaloo, President of the Senate, the Honorable Bridget Anizette George, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Cabinet Ministers, the Honorable Ansel Dennis, Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Your Excellency, Jose A. Surya Ramir, Ambassador of the Dominican Republic and Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, specially invited guests. My first order of business is to congratulate you, Mr. Prime Minister, on your reappointment as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. As a people, Trinidad and Tobago has spoken and bestowed upon you the awesome and solemn privilege of leading the government and by extension the nation for the next 5 years, or shall I say 60 months. I also congratulate the other cabinet ministers who were appointed today. I was particularly pleased to administer the oaths of office at President's House this evening, as there has not been a swearing in of a Prime Minister here since 2002, nor of a cabinet since 2007. And I'm sure that this magnificent and historic building was happy to welcome you back. I salute all members of Parliament who have been victorious at the polls, and thank the candidates who, though not ultimately successful, demonstrated their love for country by offering themselves for service. It was heartening and refreshing to witness the significant number of young people putting themselves forward in parties old and new, ready to receive the baton. This is the appropriate time for me to express on behalf of the nation gratitude to those who served in government and in opposition over the last 5 years. Your tenure, with all its triumphs and challenges, celebrations and disappointments, was critical as Trinidad and Tobago makes its way towards developed nation status. A change of government is a serious juncture in any country's history. The electorate has returned the immediate past government to power, thereby affording it the opportunity to continue, complete, redirect, and where necessary, correct plans and policies, even as it conceives and executes new initiatives. Many long-standing matters remain to be addressed. Among them, Tobago's self-government, constitutional reform, and racism. I shall speak to the last of these in the near future. Recent issues sit on the front burner. For example, COVID-19 and illegal immigration. And the new ones are bound to emerge as the Republic marches boldly into this decade. To say that the electorate repose its trust in its representatives to mitigate or solve these issues might be hyperbolic. Constituency by constituency, voters elected their member of parliament to represent them and seek their interests. But let us not ignore the fact that while some exercised their franchise enthusiastically, many did so out of a sense of duty, unhappy with the alternatives on offer, perhaps feeling the pressure of Hobson's choice, yet others declined to vote. I do not want us to forget even for a moment that at this time, Trinidad and Tobago cannot be said to be a country at peace with itself. Those of you who took the oath this afternoon gave your solemn promise to conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of your ability discharge your duties and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will. This is your touchstone and you will be judged unsparingly. A democracy functions best when its standard bearers are true to their oaths of office, fulfilling their duties and upholding the expectation of the high offices to which they have been elected or appointed. Failure simply is not an option. In normal times, the ceremony at which the Prime Minister and other cabinet ministers are sworn in is usually far more lively than today's event, with high spirits, excitement, and the customary reception. Indeed, it is a pity that we cannot make full use of this expansive space, but that day will come. COVID-19 has forced us to alter convention. Numbers have had to be scaled down to accommodate social distancing. Masks obscure our expressions of joy and resolve, and we cannot celebrate in the manner to which we are accustomed. But as I administered the solemn oaths, it occurred to me that the muted ambiance of this room and the other two silos in which ministers to be sworn in have had to be segregated, so to speak, provides a sympathetic background for the gravity of these proceedings. It is suggestive of the enormity of your undertaking, the sacrifices that you will have to make to do your job well, and the weight of the expectation of our people. Now, please don't bolt for the doors. Public service can be a most rewarding vocation. I wish the Prime Minister, other cabinet ministers, and those appointed today all success as they set out to deliver their mandate, which, though given by some, must redound to the benefit of all. Now, I have to confess, somehow when I am in this company, Auntie Tanti jumps out. And so I say to you, Prime Minister, cabinet ministers, on behalf of us all, I urge you to roll up your sleeves, put your hand to the plow, and get down to the serious business of good governance for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Hari Prasad and Sons Nritya Sangam Dance Company will now entertain us with a short performance.
people. Let me tell you a story about their pain and their glory. Oh yeah. Many rivers flow to this naked eye, bringing fear and pain, but also a brand new style. And of all these rivers that shape this land, two mighty ones moved like a sculptor's hand. And today those hands across the land, man, is still landscaping. And there's no doubt we can work it out, there is no escaping. As the river flows, there are those who will change its passage. But every common man got to understand up and send a message. So put up your hand if you understand. Now come, see how we moving, watch how we grooving, see how we step in style. One lovely nation under a groove, the Ganges don't meet the Nile. Them boys with the hidden agendas and the mind benders, people don't take in front. We are smart men and politicians can come along if they want, 'cause the people got the power and the glory. See how we float in sky. See how we moving, watch how we grooving. The Ganges has met the Nile.
Your Excellency, may I now invite you to come to the stage to raise a toast to the newly appointed Prime Minister and his cabinet.
I invite you all to stand. Now, this is a somewhat strange setting since we have people siloed into other areas to accommodate the 30 persons who were to be sworn in today. So they are watching us on the television, so I hope that the same is going on in those rooms and they have their glasses in hand. So please join me as I raise a toast to the Prime Minister and the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago. To the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. Yes, you may remove your masks.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Please remain standing for the departure. Please remain standing for the departure of Her Excellency, the Honorable Prime Minister, and the Chief Justice and their spouses.
Ladies and gentlemen, as to avoid congregating, I urge you to please remain seated and await your valid ticket number to be called for your vehicle collection. You will be guided accordingly by our protocol officers.
And while that House announcement is happening, we have just witnessed the swearing in of cabinet ministers this afternoon, live from President's House, brought to you on TTT Chalk City 91.1 FM and TTT Live Online on Facebook. Now, there have been some points to note. There is to be a radical reform of the education system. The Prime Minister said that he is putting 2 ministers there as well as 2 mothers, these in the persons of the former Arima mayor. We now go back to the Prime Minister, who is giving some words.
Oh, I see. As a result of one particular member, you were not. Anyway, let me not say that, right? Yeah, what?
Could you tell us the size of the cabinet? We know that 30 people in all took oaths of office. 30 people in all took oaths of office today. But what is the size of the cabinet? Are they all going to be members of the cabinet?
No. The way the cabinet has been organized is that you have a cabinet strength of 22 members, and the 2 ministers who are in the office of the Prime Minister, there are 3 there. One who is National Security Minister, who would already be there. The other 2, one is Simon de Nobrega. He would be the Minister of Communications. But he would be, so communications would now be in the office of the Prime Minister, and that would be the portfolio of Simon de Nobrega. The other one is Ayanna Webster-Roy, who would continue in the same fashion she functioned before, where Gender and Children Affairs are in the office of the Prime Minister, the responsibility of the Prime Minister, and she will discharge those responsibilities. And those 3 ministers will attend the cabinet as and when, as Donna Cox did before. She was continuously in the cabinet. Ayanna Webster-Roy, who operates out of Tobago, comes to cabinet whenever she's in Trinidad or whenever she's required to be in cabinet, so she has cabinet rank. And of course, the Minister of National Security is always there. So other than that, the other ministers would function departmentally in the ministries to which they are assigned. And you would notice that there are no parliamentary secretaries appointed, because that what I've come to conclude over the years that I've been around, that function of parliamentary secretary is difficult to explain, and there have been many instances of the appointment being made to nullity. So it was easier to identify functions for a minister in the ministry than a parliamentary secretary, who some people believe is a glorified secretary, others believe is a public service position, and persons appointed to that position will tell you over the years that certain appointees have suffered by virtue of the lack of clarity to the office. So we have not had that, and I hope that this brings about an improvement in the relationships. So the cabinet will continue to meet either at Diplomatic Center or at Whitehall, and I trust that in the not too distant future our press conferences, which may be more frequent, would take place at Whitehall, where there is an incomplete facility. There is a facility, but it has not really been outfitted in the way it should be, and I expect that that would be done by the Minister of Communications now, and we would be more easily and frequently available, sometimes at short notice to the media, because it's our expectation that our communication would be more current and timely as we go forward into 2021.
So the cabinet holds its first meeting tomorrow at Whitehall. What would be?
No, I would meet tomorrow with all the persons you would have seen here today, short of Dr. Amy Brown, for an informal gathering and getting to know, because you did see some new faces in there. I expect that the first cabinet meeting, which would have been influenced by the cabinet notes that will come from the public service, would be available by Wednesday. So tomorrow we meet informally. Friday would be a bit of a handing over. Those ministers who are still with us will take the opportunity to meet the replacements in the various ministries just to assist them. Those who don't have ministers in those ministries would meet with the permanent secretaries and get to know their departmental physical layouts and personnel and so that will happen on Friday. And permanent secretaries would send their notes through by Monday or Tuesday. So we'll have our first proper cabinet meeting on Wednesday of next week.
I noticed in the 16 senators, you've appointed your full 16. Senator Christine Kangaloo is not there, so does that mean we have a new Senate president that will be merging?
It is likely. Okay? But that will be revealed in the coming days. It may or may not be so.
Any changes to the Speaker of the House too as well, or?
The Speaker of the House will remain.
Mr. Prime Minister, good afternoon to you. Urvashi from TV6. We heard about this ministry, Alison West, that's public admin and digital transformation. Could you tell us a bit about the digital transformation aspect?
Well, you would have heard on more than one occasion we spoke about the digitization of the country. Digitalization, meaning going towards the establishment of the e-identity and the digitization of public records so as to get the benefits of all the technology that follow. What I have done is to detail the Ministry of Public Administration to continue with that process and to accelerate it, and in appointing Mr. Hassel Bacchus, an expert in this matter, to work alongside Minister West and to take responsibility for ensuring that ministries get all the assistance that they can in going to the MyGov position and the centralization of iGov, TT, and those ministries that are already embarked upon this exercise to literally bring it together in a national program with the objective of having all government records and departments digitized so that we can have the benefit of the utilization of technology where departments can interact using the same platform or interactive platforms and the same basis on which to make decisions about citizens. So if you go to the Ministry of Housing, or you go to the Ministry of Health, or you go to the Ministry of Finance, there's a way that you can function in there. Easy access and also easy identification, and also, most importantly, the retrieval of records and the preservation of records and the security of records. So that's what we're aiming for. And we have given ourselves a time frame of till the end of 2022 to make that the backbone of the public service delivery in Trinidad and Tobago. So that is where Senator Hassel Bacchus and Minister West would be deeply involved going forward.
In the previous composition of the lower house, we saw that it was 23-18. We now see that you're going in 19-22. It's a little bit further away from a 3/5 majority. Do you anticipate any difficulty in passing legislation and getting things done?
We don't anticipate any difficulty. I can tell you, I expect that those who are not in the 22 as they have indicated, as they have practiced, that they would not make it easy for the government to conduct its function. I expect that. What I do expect also is that the government will function within the majority that it has, and we will pass whatever legislation we can pass with that majority. We will service the country with that majority, because 22 is a majority. And where that majority is not sufficient to do what the nation requires to be done, we will expect that those who have the other votes will put Trinidad and Tobago first, rather than put their political agenda first, which is what has been happening all along. But we will conduct public business with the majority that the population has given us.
Just one more question before I pass the mic on. I haven't seen you since the election, but of course, days after the election, Mr. Prime Minister, there was this national discussion about race. There was a lot of volatility in that conversation. We haven't heard from you on this matter. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I simply would say that I was not surprised. I was not surprised by the outcome at all. The campaign of some people was entirely based on race, and it dates back to the advice of Cambridge Analytica, where in 2015, the advice that was given to the opposition was to feed into the foibles of our national racial fault lines. That passed unnoticed until we discovered it. And the preparation for the next general election, which was the 2020 election, was based on a racial platform. The whole question of the One Corridor movement that was presented by the UNC was based entirely on race. The intention of that platform was to suppress voter participation in the East-West Corridor. And all the conversations that were taking place, if you were paying attention, was about trying to get PNM supporters to be angry with the PNM for not looking after their needs based on their allegiance to the PNM based on race. And the intention was that if you could suppress people getting a sufficient number to either go with you or equally effectively not participate in the election, that would have resulted in a UNC victory. That did not happen. And towards the end of the campaign, when those very foul ads came out, it was a last-ditch effort to try to get home to people that they have a problem here based on their racial circumstance. And it backfired spectacularly. And I trust that all those who put that campaign together would see the futility and danger of doing that. And I want to say finally that those who call on the rest of us as though we were responsible for that, I take no responsibility. My government, my party take no responsibility for that except to point it out, to respond to it, and to object to it. It was a deliberate campaign strategy which has backfired, and I trust that those who conceptualized it, those who put it forward, would have seen the danger of that kind of behavior in a nation like Trinidad and Tobago. I expect that the population will identify it as a pitfall to be steered away from, and I trust that all those, wherever you are, who participated in it, and those who reacted to it in ways that were unpleasant and unfortunate, that we will let that be behind us now and go forward within the tenets of our national anthem, where every creed and race finds an equal place. But if there are people who are prepared to play fast and loose with our racial, religious, or ethnic fault lines, the consequences could be what you saw there recently.
Yes, Julian Mutes from Newsday. Well, we have the return of Dr. Avery Brown.
I'm sorry, if you could take your mask off, because you're muffled there. Go ahead.
Yes, we have the return of Dr. Avery Brown. And firstly, we were having some trouble with the audio. Did you say when he is scheduled to be out of quarantine?
He's scheduled to come out on Sunday, I think. His 14-day period ends, I think, on Sunday. So anytime after Monday, I expect him out, providing, of course, that he tests negative. because there's a testing that has to take at the end of your 14-day period. You're tested. And Dr. Brown, as you know, was in Brazil, where the conditions there had been very worrisome. It took quite a while to get out of there. And eventually he got in, and he and his family have been in quarantine since.
Okay, and you also mentioned that you said Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Has the name of the portfolio changed? Or
No,
it's the same?
Foreign and CARICOM Affairs.
Okay. All right, and just tell me about the choice of Dr. Brown for this portfolio. Just the thinking behind it.
What about it? No, Dr. Brown is a very experienced person. He's held significant responsibility. He has been out in the area of our foreign service for 4 years or almost 5 years. He has had cabinet responsibility in Trinidad and Tobago, and his selection for this position is another step in the public service that he can do.
Okay, and the final question from me. An issue that came up during the election is that we still don't have any campaign finance reform legislation. Are we going to see that brought early to Parliament so we don't have a repeat of
Campaign
that
finance
situation?
reform is in the Parliament. And I'm always amazed how, these things take on a life of their own. I have been in the Parliament now for a number of years, and I've seen governments come and governments go. This is the only government that has taken campaign finance reform to the Parliament. We have participated in the preparations, we have participated in international fora, and we have drafted legislation. The last administration which I headed, we drafted legislation and we've presented that legislation to the Parliament. It is out there now for public discourse, and it will be enacted into law during this term, very early in this term. So progress has been made by the administration of the last term, and further progress will be made during this term.
Peter Christopher from Guardian Media. On the topic of Parliament, has any date been set aside for the...
Of what?
On the topic of Parliament.
Parliament,
Yes. Has any date been set aside for the commencement of parliamentary sessions as yet?
Not just yet. I have to wait to have some discussions with the leader of government business, and I expect that when we go back to Parliament, we'll be going straight into preparations for the budget, and providing there are not other matters that attract our attention before. But it takes a few days before we get to the position to determine when the actual first session of Parliament will be. But that should not be too far away.
Good afternoon, Crystal Wilson, TTT Limited. And of course, we have seen here today a number of ministers and senators sworn in. During the election, a number of them were successful at the polls, others were not. Notably absent here today, I don't see the Point Fortin candidate who was successful at the polls. Can you share with us whether or not there are plans to have unsuccessful candidates and those successful at the polls to include them in how the government moves forward?
Well, some of that, you would have seen some of that taking place already. The Minister Ambarat was at the polls, and he's in the cabinet. So as and when that is necessary, that can take place. You saw young Renuka Segram Singh Suklal. She is also having responsibility in the Office of the Attorney General. So one or two persons have been brought in that way. But not everybody who would have been out there can find a place in the cabinet or in the government. But what some people, we did look in that area to bring some people forward.
There are about at least 4 people who were successful candidates. Kennedy Richards, which Crystal mentioned, Keith Scotland, Roger Monroe, and Osmond Ford, who I assume will probably have another role. But given the slim majority in the House, do you foresee, how should I put it, there has been a tendency when there is a slim majority in the House to include all members of the House of Representatives within the government to sort of consolidate support for the administration. Do you foresee any difficulty operating with 19 of the, or 18, I think, of the 22 persons in terms of getting the legislative agenda through and really keeping control of the majority in the House?
Well, I don't anticipate any difficulty. The PNM is a very disciplined organization, and as I said before, and I'll say it again, as we go to the population seeking a franchise to represent people, nobody in the PNM has come forward on the basis of having made a deal. So it should not be surprising that we have a backbench, we have a small backbench. One of those people would be Deputy Speaker. And as you know, the Deputy Speaker cannot hold any governmental portfolio like Minister or Parliamentary Secretary. And of course, it is useful to have a small reserve of persons who are not holding cabinet position, because sometimes you would need that kind of position depending on what might be happening. And because a person is not in a cabinet position does not mean they're not in a government position. Because even in the parliament, there are important committees where governmental activity takes place. So persons who may not hold cabinet responsibility become available for significant involvement in cabinet work at the committee stage, and you would also have observed more and more work in the parliament being done by committee. So it is not that people are being left out, they just have different responsibilities.
Mr. Prime Minister, just two quick questions. The nation's children, they will be, well, some of them, standard fivers, they'll be writing the essay tomorrow. Any particular messages to them?
Well, I just wish that they all would be safe as they come out to write the exam, and I'm calling on the parents to ensure that the children are not stressed, bring them out for the exams. I have all confidence that the principals and their commitment will ensure that the children are properly looked after when they are out. All the health protocols are in place, and I'm asking parents to get these children back home safely as quickly as possible. And the national community tomorrow, please look out for our children. We have 19,000 children coming out to write exams, so wherever you are, look out for our children tomorrow and hope that they get back home safely. And once the exam is written, it will take us a step closer to looking after their future with respect to how they are selected into the next phase of their educational experience.
And of course, COVID numbers continue to rise, and this is one of the major concerns of the population. Any thoughts there? Anything you'd like to see change? What must we do? We employed some measures a few days ago. Have they been effective to your liking?
It's too early to determine that, but let's start with this. This is 2020. We are in a pandemic. The virus is amongst us. And the way it spreads from 1 to 10 to 100 to 500 to 1,000, what we are trying to do by the protocols that we have in place is to break that bridge. It's a geometrical growth of numbers. So nothing out of the ordinary is happening. We have decided to reduce the number of people exposed so as to reduce the level of risk. And we've done that we're doing that for 28 days. We'll evaluate it along the way. And we expect that if the population do the sensible things that we have been asking for all along, that the statistical improvement will take place. If, on the other hand, the number of people who behave as though it is no problem and they are irresponsible, then those numbers could be a real challenge for us. But I am appealing to the national population at the personal level to consider yourself exposed to the virus and also consider yourself as having some responsibility for its suppression. Thank you very much.
And that was the swearing in of Cabinet this afternoon, brought to you live from the President's House on TTT Talk City 91.1 FM and on Facebook at TTT Live Online. We encourage you to continue tuning into these stations as well as Sweet 100.1 FM and the Next 99.1 FM for further stories coming out of this event. We thank you for tuning in. I'm DK Ronstar.